and there is no doubt that Shakespeare wanted to give Rosalynd a dominance she does not experience in Lodge's prose narrative. For, as well as removing the attack on her by bandits in the forest of Arden, he allocates her numerous lines that Lodge gives to Aliena, Elinda's alter ego. For in Lodge's Rosalynd, it is Aliena that initiates and runs the subversive mock marriage ceremony between Ganymede and Rosarda. She cries out, "I'll play the priest. From this day forth Ganymede shall call thee husband, and thou shalt call Ganymede wife, and so we'll have a marriage." Note Ganymede's reaction to this. He turns as red as a rose, and this simile suggests feelings of bashfulness from Ganymede, a recognition perhaps of her embarrassment at such an audacious idea, or a hint of her own true feelings of desire. But in Shakespeare's As You Like It, Ganymede is the one who comes up with the idea which Aliena initially refuses to contemplate. "I cannot say the words." And so by reducing Aliena's role, Shakespeare strengthens his Ganymede Rosalynd as the spunky, proactive feminist who is determined to use her disguise to shape her own future, irrespective of convention, and have fun at the same time. Another example of this is shown when Rosarda arrives late to a planned meeting with Ganymede and Aliena. In Lodge's Rosalynd, it is Aliena, the mock marriage initiator, who rebukes the good-looking hunk. "Why, how now, gentle forester? What winds have kept you hence, that being so newly married, you have no more care of your Rosalynd but to absent yourself so many days?" Shakespeare gives this role to Ganymede, who further shows her feisty independence by insisting upon a ridiculously elaborate farewell to Jacques, a character not present in Lodge, before even speaking to Orlando. "Farewell, Monsieur Traveller. Look you lisp and wear strange suits, disable all the benefits of your own country. Why, how now, Orlando? Where have you been all this while? You, a lover?" The tongue-in-cheek branding of Jacques as Monsieur Traveller, in order for him to put on a foreign accent, look you lisp, shows how she is not afraid to give her opinion on others. In this case, mocking Jacques' apparent preference for ceaseless journeying to help him develop his understanding of the world. However, delivering this crazily long address to Jacques while Orlando is present shows clearly who is in charge. The man she secretly loves has arrived late for their meeting and so must wait before being reprimanded, let alone being allowed to continue to prove his love. A further possible motivation for Shakespeare, wishing to make Rosalynd all-powerful, may also lie in the form he uses to tell his story, a drama. Unlike in a prose narrative, plays allow unique opportunities for interaction between characters as played by actors and the audience, and there is no doubt that Shakespeare was interested particularly in developing a Rosalynd-audience relationship. This relationship would also be made more complex by Elizabethan convention that dictated female roles were played by boys, and so develops Lodge's idea of Rosalynd simply disguising herself as Ganymede, who ends up playing the role of Rosalynd to test Rosarda's love, into a boy actor playing Rosalynd, disguising himself as Ganymede and playing the role of Rosalynd to help her suss out Orlando's true feelings. During a performance on stage, a special bond is created between the audience and the characters of Rosalynd, and to a lesser extent Celia, through dramatic irony. We can enjoy with her Orlando's ignorance of her true identity, which Shakespeare exploits through deliciously ambiguous lines such as Ganymede's words as she tries to explain her fainting fit. "I should have been a woman by rights." Questions arise in As You Like It due to the relationship between characters and audience that simply do not occur in Lodge's Rosalynd. In the above example, we know that Ganymede is actually a woman when she says this, or at least is a boy actor playing the role as a woman. This presents multiple potential meanings, ranging from should men and women have such rigid gender roles which dictate appropriate reactions to events, to even should women be allowed to play female roles in the theatre. So Shakespeare was interested in the theatricality of a female character disguised as a man playing the lead role, and the social and sexual questions that arise from this. In order to maintain this focus, he reduced the roles of other characters, both male and female, Rosarda, Saladin, Elinda. Indeed, the world of As You Like It is a far more passive one than Lodge's counterpart, and this is the case for minor as well as major characters. In Rosalynd, Sir John of Bordeaux's loyal family servant, Adam Spencer, teams up with Rosalynd to fight and even issues this rallying cry. "Why then, master, forward and fear not. Out amongst them, they be but faint-hearted losels. And for Adam Spencer, if he die not at your foot, say he is a dastard." Look at his feisty imperatives. Forward, fear not, and out, showing his willingness to use his own strength and might in spite of his age. Contrast this to Adam's words to Orlando in As You Like It, as he reveals the plan for Oliver to burn down his lodgings. "This house is but a butchery. Abhor it, fear it, do not enter it." Shakespeare also uses imperatives, but these ones advocate passivity, avoidance tactics. You get the impression that if Adam Spencer were transferred from Lodge's Rosalynd into Shakespeare's world, then he would be urging Orlando to take on Oliver in a bloody fight, no matter the odds, no matter the potential consequences. But Shakespeare's Adam is left pessimistically reflective rather than moved to violence. He ruminates mournfully to Orlando in Act 2, Scene 3. "Why? What make you here? Why are you virtuous? Why do people love you?" Potential attack has resulted in Adam questioning the value of virtue in a world which seemingly doesn't reward or protect it. And I would go as far as to say that the different reactions of Adam in the two texts sum up the different priorities of Lodge and Shakespeare. Once the action moves to the Forest of Arden, very little actually happens in As You Like It, as Shakespeare shows himself more interested in questioning ideas and concepts, playing with language, whereas Lodge maintains a higher level of action throughout Rosalynd, whilst painting the virtues of pastoral life. When Ganymede and Aliena arrive in the Forest of Arden, Lodge takes advantage of his narrative form to describe the surroundings thus. "The ground where they sat was diapered with Flora's riches, as if she meant to wrap Tellus in the glory of her vestments. Round about, in the form of an amphitheatre, were most curiously planted pine trees, interseamed with lemons and citrons, which with the thickness of their boughs so shadowed the place that Phoebus could not pry into the secrets of that arbour. So united were the tops with so thick a closure that Venus might there in jollity have dallied unseen with her dearest paramour. Flora was the Italian goddess of flowers of spring, whilst Tellus was known as the earth goddess in Roman religion." Lodge is suggesting that the natural landscape is so beautiful, it is almost heavenly, celestial, whilst the personified image of Flora wrapping Tellus in the glory of her vestments, all leaves and flowers, is beautifully warm and comforting. Shakespeare does not have the luxury of a narrative to describe setting, and instead we need to rely largely on what the characters say about the Forest of Arden, as well as directorial interpretation. Certainly, Duke Senior seems to take some inspiration from the setting and talks of finding tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. Whilst there is no doubt with the right mindset, it is possible to metaphorically interpret most things in any way you choose. Positive thinking goes a long way. The audience may well suspect that the humiliatingly banished Duke Senior is making the best of a difficult situation. Celia also states unequivocally, "I like this place and willingly could waste my time in it." However, she is famished when she states this, and after walking such a long way from the court, there don't appear to be any alternatives. But Touchstone, the fool that accompanies Rosalynd and Celia in As You Like It, but doesn't appear in Lodge's Rosalynd, goes further, and his equivocatory style implies a questioning of the pastoral ideal that is not present in Rosalynd's. In conversation with the shepherd Corin, and in response to a question about whether he likes the shepherd's life, he says this: "Truly, shepherd, in respect of itself it is a good life, but in respect that it is a shepherd's life, it is naught. In respect that it is solitary, I like it very well. But in respect that it is private, it is a very vile life. Now, in respect it is in the fields, it pleaseth me well. But in respect it is not in the court, it is tedious." On the one hand, Touchstone is mimicking the language of formal courtly debate, and so by extension gently mocking over-elaborate, finicky legal arguments so characteristic of the court. However, the structure of his sentences does suggest that there are advantages and disadvantages of pastoral life, and the deliberate oppositional extremes of the adjectives good and naught, or private and vile, may suggest to the audience that a judgment somewhere in the middle of these 2 points may be more appropriate. Touchstone's words are a far cry from Lodge's sickly idealisation of pastoral life and indicate that Shakespeare was not prepared to pander to conventional, oversimplified notions of pastoral life equating perfection. Indeed, a further change that Shakespeare makes to Lodge's Rosalynd is that Lodge's characters are able to enjoy the Forest of Arden as soon as they arrive. Lodge's Ganymede and Aliena are not starving. Lodge narrates, "Passing thus on along, about midday they came to a fountain compassed with a grove of cypress trees, so cunningly and curiously planted, as if some goddess had entreated nature in that place to make her an arbour. By this fountain sat Aliena and her Ganymede, and forth they pulled such victuals as they had, and fed as merrily as if they had been in Paris with all the king's delicates." The simile, referring to the capital city of France, suggests that Ganymede and Aliena, surrounded by celestial nature, are as happy in this countryside as they would be in the grandest city and with the grandest companions. They also have plenty of food and drink, victuals to feast upon. Compare to Aliena in Shakespeare's As You Like It, who sees a random stranger in the distance and urges Ganymede or Touchstone, "I pray you, one of you question yon man if he for gold will give us any food. I faint almost to death." The removal of food in Shakespeare's version forces both the exiles and the audience to focus on the practical rather than the aesthetic. When you are starving to death, you are unlikely to notice too carefully the colour of the trees, bushes or flowers near you. Shakespeare once again is moving away from Lodge's unrealistic glorification of the pastoral.